Welcome on in, people. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out over here. Much appreciated. If you guys could subscribe here, subscribe to the WQAM YouTube page as well. Watch Tobin and Leroy, or you can subscribe to us on all podcast platforms. That would be fun. My boy Leroy will be back tomorrow as he enjoyed a day of golf, a day off. And looking forward to that. Going to be boots on the ground tonight over at the Heat's house at the Kaseya Center for Heat and Nets. Nets pretty banged up coming into this one. It seems like I'm doing this 2 o'clock. I think the word was that Jimmy was upgraded to probable along with Haywood Highsmith. Bam available, Caleb Martin out, and Kevin Love questionable. So we will see where we lie with that when it comes to the Heat lineup tonight. A lot of Heat fans and getting into a tizzy over a tweet from Jimmy Butler's friend. There was a lot of weird Heat social media action over the last 24 to 48 hours with the Damian Lillard showdown happening. We all, saw the handshake between Jimmy and Dame was afterwards was like, no extra juice to this game. And then Giannis was like, who cares if, that's the team he wanted to be on. This is the right team for him. Do with that what you will. But the Miami Heat are releasing these new jerseys, which say Heat Culture on them. They're their new City Edition jerseys. They have finished their mashup campaign. They have were a couple removed from the Vice campaign. Last year I was very happy because they brought the throwbacks back for the year 35 anniversary. This year they're going with Heat Culture. I think the court looks badass. The only thing I would have said, I like the jerseys. I think they could have been a 10 if it just said culture. I don't think it needs to say Heat Culture. I think it should have just said culture in that font, and I think it would have been a 10 out of 10. But nonetheless, the Heat are going to get the eye rolls from people. I think Zach Lowe described it as it's going to be a world record breaker in eye rolling of people with the uniforms and whatever, dude. That's why they're a bunch of hating bastards, and you have Lakers fans freaking out over Gabe Vincent's first 4 games because the Miami Heat have a great ability to find guys, develop them, have a tenacity. It's kind of like what you just saw this past game against the Bucks, where it looked like they were completely out of it, and they're trying to make a march and doing it with, these young guys with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, and nearly are able to pull it off against the Milwaukee Bucks. But this, I guess, brought forth a little bit of controversy because Jimmy Butler's friend is the way it's being described as by the Heat blogs, Heat Reddit, all that stuff. And he put out a tweet, this guy Ernie. I'm sorry, I don't have Ernie's last name, but Ernie on social media gets the Jimmy Butler this repost here, and it's a tweet from the Heat, and it says, the slogan that has embodied our team is now across our chest. Heat Culture drops Wednesday night at midnight. It's a picture of Jimmy Butler wearing the Heat Culture jersey, right? And Ernie, who's in, Jimmy Butler's camp, he says, man, what about trade culture or get some help culture or make some kind of moves in the last 4 years culture? Try to act like you're trying to win something culture. So a lot of Heat fans took this, and first of all, I don't know if there's a Heat fan alive that hasn't tweeted the things that Ernie has tweeted and not had those feelings of, will this team just make a move? Please, just something new, something that makes me feel like you're tweaking something to make something happen. I think it's very much in the realm of the Celtics, right? I don't know if the Celtics are going to be better this year. They go and get Drew Holiday, they get Kristaps Porzingis, but they very clearly feel like they've hit their limit with a certain core. They have their top 2 guys. They're trying something different. Will it work? Will it not work? I don't know. But I think that at least the Celtic fan feels like their team is making a move. And with the Heat, you're sitting here and you're starting Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry in the 4th game of the season. And you're thinking to yourself, this feels stale in the early goings. And I'm we're going at this from I thank you with your preface of it's the 5th game of the season coming into tonight. I'm aware of where we are at the season. Very early. There's a lot of games left. I'm just telling you the tenor of the Heat fan. Well, I thought that Bucks game, if that Bucks game would have just been a blowout, I think this week would have felt a lot more, even more pressure on it. But the fact that they even made some kind of a comeback, Tyler Hero was awesome in that game. You saw some real highlights from the young guys. I think that's what the Heat fan is kind of dying for. Like, let's see the youth movement infused with our top two guys in Jimmy and Bam and go from there. But to Ernie's point, which the tweet was deleted because everybody was like, oh my God, Jimmy Butler's friends or Jimmy Butler's camp this is how he feels. If Jimmy Butler felt that way, would you blame him? Would you blame Jimmy Butler? If Jimmy Butler in an honest moment was like, his first reaction was to the Dame trade was like, let's check the Bucks for tampering. Like, he's joking it out, but it's kind of like, how did we miss on this one? This was supposed to be the layup. So I do genuinely think there's an element to Jimmy Butler that probably thinks, man, kind of got at it with these guys for at least the last 3 years and dealt with Tyler injuries and Kyle injuries and, guys being banged up and the role guys not being there. It's like, yeah, you feel like if I wasn't 100%, if I had some other guy there with me and Bam that was able to step up in a moment, if they are doing a good job against me or to bring some relief for me, maybe we go somewhere, baby. Maybe we actually get over the top. You know how bad Jimmy Butler wants to get there. So if Jimmy Butler or his camp feels the way that Ernie's tweet feels, I don't really blame them for feeling that way because all Heat Nation, and probably some of the front office feels the same way in that, yeah, we're looking for maybe the perfect move. Not everybody, but, some people there. So this idea that, like, he even had to delete the tweet, I get it. You don't want to make it seem like a guy in Jimmy Butler who has been disgruntled basically everywhere he's been, is now disgruntled with the Heat, or things are getting a little frosty with the Miami Heat. But I don't think what he tweeted was awful. I think that's it. First of all, he's not Jimmy Butler. And second of all, if Jimmy Butler did feel that way, I get it if I was Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler has been awesome. Jimmy Butler has fulfilled every part of his Heat run. He's held up his end of the bargain when everybody thought he was coming here to retire. Now, from the Heat standpoint, like, the Heat, right? The Heat have given Jimmy Butler the contract and the contract extension that he's always wanted. They let Jimmy Butler live by a set of rules down here that they didn't even let LeBron James live by when he was here. Like, they were more strict with LeBron in his prime than they were with Jimmy Butler, who, has never been in the star stratosphere, maybe up into this point of LeBron. So the Heat have changed in some ways, and they knew they probably had to if they wanted to get the star, the Orca. And the thing I think that's frustrating for Heat fans is, like, you finally got to the point where multiple people told this summer that their number one choice and number one place they wanted to be was in Miami. And not only because weather, taxes, awesome place to live, but because they get to play with Jimmy Butler and they get to play with Bam Adebayo. And so if people around those guys are a little bit look, do you not remember last year are a little bit frosty with the tweet? I'm not surprised. You don't remember last year where Bam was liking tweets, joking about that Bam spent all summer recruiting Spida Mitchell only to see him go somewhere else. And it's like he's liking tweets about that. So there's no way there's not a part of Jimmy and Bam that haven't thought to themselves, man, what is going to be the thing that gets the Heat to get those moves over the goal line? Because even with that not happening, the Heat really haven't made any trades since the last big trade they made in the season was the Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters for Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder deal. They got PJ Tucker for a year. Didn't want to pay him. Neither, the Sixers got caught tampering for it. And by the way, traded him off to the Clippers. And then they made the Kyle Lowry deal, which they also got slapped on the wrist for. But that deal, as much as that was a very Jimmy motivated deal, the player's never going to take accountability for a move they wanted not working out. That's not on them. Plenty of guys LeBron wanted on, and if they didn't work out, it was never on him. So I don't think there's going to come a point. where this gets bad enough that Jimmy wants out. because he's been on the record, his representatives have been on the record multiple times that this is the place he wants to retire. This is the place where he wants to finish his career. This is the last jersey that he plans on wearing. And I think that's a genuine feeling, as long as the Heat are, as long as it's not like a complete disaster and they got to blow things up and tank, which is something this organization doesn't really do. I think that's probably going to end up being the case. Jimmy's had a great run here. I think that he does like the way he kind of gets his way around here, and the Heat let him be him, and the Heat don't try and make him conform to really anything. And I'd be surprised if he ended up, if it ever got to a point where that he asked out, that he couldn't take it anymore. I'd find that a little surprising. But that doesn't mean that he can't be frustrated about moves not happening. Now, excuse me. There was an interesting tweet this morning from Mickey Arison. Now, I don't know if this is basketball related, because Mickey kind of comes and goes with how much he posts on the Heat. A lot of the times he'll just go on carnival mode. But Mickey Arison will get spicy in the likes. Like he'll like I've had, petty LeBron tweets that like he's liked before. But Mickey will get spicy in the likes, and especially if it's, supportive of him. And this could have nothing to do with Heat. I don't know. But there are a lot of people out there that are saying that Mickey's not coming through. Mickey's not going to pay what he needs to pay because of the Bradley Beal stuff that happened this summer, that he's not going to, spend willy-nilly to get the players around Jimmy Butler. And I don't really buy into that, just because the Bradley Beal thing has a basketball argument for it. Yes, the money is crazy, but it's a salary cap sport. It's impossible not to think about the money and what the ramifications of that money are, especially for a team that does like to get very creative with their moves, have a cap guru in Andy Ellisberg, and what the ramifications are of signing a guy like that, and what are the differences in production of what that guy is. And yeah, they're never going to do the Ishbia thing or the Ballmer thing or the Prokhorov thing. But I think Mickey Arison, if this tweet is about the Heat, is probably kind of throwing up like a Twitter middle finger to anybody who's like, hey, my way has been better than those guys. You can say what you want. You could be annoyed by it. You could want the flashy thing. And look at half this channel. I'm guilty of always wanting the flashy thing. But Mickey Arison could hold up and be like, look at the success of our organization. Look how many times we've gotten to the finals. Look how many Eastern Conference times we've been to the Eastern Conference finals. My way's better. And he posts a quote from Mark Twain that says, no amount of evidence will ever persuade an idiot. Now, again, this may have nothing to do with basketball. All right. This is a very rich man. He could be relating that to a million things. Who knows, what mode Mickey's getting into there. But let's just say, for an example, if it is Heat related, and maybe it is pointed at, I don't know, in-great fans. Maybe it is pointed at Jimmy Butler's camp. I'm not sure. But I do think that the Arisons have gotten a bit of a bad rap over this summer because of them not getting Brad. They tried to get Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard makes a lot of money, right? The thing that I thought that he misstepped in, excuse me, the thing that I thought that he misstepped in this summer, and the only thing I really thought was kind of a stupid thing to get to, because it gave the appearance of them not willing to spend when they had an easier out. When it came to the Bradley Beal thing and that Bradley Beal piece coming out, they had the out, which was, we didn't go after Bradley Beal because we wanted to go after Damian Lillard. So if the Heat were dragging their feet on Bradley Beal, you can basically not insult Bradley Beal and be like, hey, we were going after Damian Lillard. That's what the pursuit was. That's why we didn't go after you, dude. That's why we weren't in the mode of, and for some reason they found this need to make statements to reporters that said, well, the thing that worried us with Bradley Beal was the no trade clause, which is like, all right, well, then it does seem like you're worried about the money, because, the money that Bradley Beal is going to make is basically its own no trade clause. They're at a point right now where they're probably having where they've had trouble, finding takers for Lowry's expiring deal. And that's half the money that Bradley Beal's going to make, So I didn't understand that. And I thought that was probably their biggest PR misstep this offseason. But if I was Mickey Arison and I've had the success that I've had as Heat owner, and he really has, dude, the only time they've really gone on the cheapskates, it was more of a Riley thing because it was with D Wade. That's the only time you could really accuse this organization of truly cheaping out. I guess if you want to quibble about Mike Miller, fine. But I will remind Heat fans, Mike Miller, amazing finals performance, 1-shoot-3, 6 threes in game 5 against the Thunder. In the regular season, Mike Miller was a corpse. Dude never played. Definitely would have been a benefit that year because that happened to be the year where he ended up actually playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. But his Heat tenure was full of, he was always hurt. And they had this amnesty out clause. People have always said that was the first domino to make LeBron pissed. I don't know. Who knows? But if this is a shot at Jimmy Butler's team, I think it's probably just to the effect of, hey, man, we wanted to get Damian Lillard. We couldn't get it done. It wasn't a money thing. It wasn't a case of we weren't willing to do it. They weren't willing to do it. When this is one of those things where it's like you could have the reasons that it didn't happen and it really doesn't matter. You don't have Damian Lillard, your biggest rival does, and all reasoning kind of goes out the window for the Heat fan or the players or the people around the players. So, I don't know. The thing is right now, the Heat is in a sensitive spot because they start the season 1-4. They lose to their top 2 rivals in the East. And everybody's banged up. Jimmy seems like he's dealing with something too. And by the way, he was dealing with knee tendonitis. So that whole thing about, him, doing something with his knee on the Bucks bench will now, come to light that he has been dealing with something. And it very physically looks like he has been dealing with something. But, losing will make people sensitive and it will make people spout off. And especially with a core, and I'll include ownership there, the Arisons, Riley, Spo, with this, top 3-4 guys who have been together for 5 years. And you add on top of that Kyle Lowry, who's been here now for 3 years with, young guys who are still trying to make their way. The losing will make people a lot more sensitive for sure. So as Spo said, they have the work cut out for them on this homestand, and be nice if they could rack up some wins to ease the tension a little bit.